game was an away game, meaning the match was played in nearby Chino, approximately 8 miles away from Upland. As he left, Sean asked his family to save him some pizza. However, this was the very last time the Betts family ever saw the 11-year-old alive. Sean and his friend were spotted at the pizzeria at around 9 p.m. after returning to the establishment, following the realization that the basketball game was out of town. The pair were witnessed playing more video games. Sean called it a night and decided to leave the establishment with an unidentified male adolescent, according to witnesses. However, he never made it home. His parents stayed up all night waiting for their son to return, but when he hadn't appeared by morning, Barbara and Dennis contacted the authorities to report him as missing. According to Crimehound's 2022 YouTube video on this case, which was made to raise awareness of this extremely unknown case, much of which came from the Betts family themselves, Sean's school received a strange phone call that morning before anyone even knew he was missing. The stranger, who identified themselves as his grandmother, told the school that Sean would no longer be attending as he was moving to Washington. The family confirmed that the woman on the phone was not Sean's grandmother. Though she had previously lived in Washington, she was back living in California and fighting cancer at the time. Unfortunately, she passed away without ever knowing what happened to her grandson. Whoever the caller was, or how they knew this outdated information regarding Sean's grandmother, or even that he was missing, remains a mystery. Initially, police assumed Sean to be a runaway due to the fact that he was due to go to juvenile court in the coming days following an altercation at school. However, his parents did not believe this to be a reason for their son to run away. He didn't seem particularly bothered by the scheduled court appearance. His mother even claimed that he never would have left home without some of his favourite belongings, including a comfort blanket. He had also left behind his baseball glove, a number of Little League baseball trophies, a remote-control truck, a General Lee toy car from the Dukes of Hazzard, a brand new boombox, and his backpack. Nothing appeared out of place in Sean's bedroom, and no clothes were missing either. Police searched the house, even digging it up in 1991 following an anonymous tip, claiming that he was buried under the property, but they found nothing. The Betts family were left frustrated when police told them that Sean would probably return home when he was hungry. They knew that this was not the case, and something was seriously wrong. According to the family, police didn't take the case seriously until 4 months had passed. Meanwhile, Sean's family put up flyers around the community in the hopes that anyone with information would come forward, but unfortunately this was to no avail. Local authorities and media stations, as well as ones from further afield, were not interested in exploring Sean's case any further, simply due to the fact he was listed as a runaway. This significantly hindered the search for him. Rather interestingly, the owners of the pizzeria shut up shop and left town a short time after Sean's disappearance, which left many suspicious, especially since nobody in the locality seemed to know where they went, though some speculated they returned to their home country in the Middle East. Police did look into the family who owned the pizza chalet, following their trail to Los Angeles, but found no reason to suspect they were involved in Sean's vanishing. Unfortunately, the case subsequently went cold. Several potential sightings of Sean were reported over the years following, however, all led to dead ends. Despite this, police are still actively investigating his disappearance and have followed up numerous tips and leads from across the country, but to no avail. Overall, this particular case received little to no publicity at the time or much thereafter. Sean's face was placed on milk cartons, and he was one of the missing children featured in the Soul Asylum music video Runaway Train in 1993. In December of 2021, Barbara Betts pleaded to the City Council to do more regarding her son's case, which had remained cold for 34 years. The police and residents of Upland are hoping that a break in the case will come sooner rather than later. In February 2022, YouTube channel Crimehound released a video about Other than these efforts, very little has been done to publicise the case, which has left his loved ones understandably disheartened. Police, family members and residents of Upland hope that social media will help shed more light on Sean's disappearance and in turn hopefully reveal new leads for investigators. Sean's father, Dennis, died in 2009 without ever knowing what fate befell his son. His mother, Barbara, told Crimehound regarding her son's disappearance, quote, "It is hard for me to stay hopeful. Even if he is not alive, I'd still like to know what happened, where his remains are, where his bones are. I need some kind of closure." At the time he vanished, Sean Betts was 11 years old. He is described as being Caucasian with brown hair and green eyes, standing at 4 feet 7 inches tall, weighing approximately 90 pounds. Notably, he had some skin discoloration on his lower left jawbone and near his chin. He was last seen wearing a grey shirt, a pair of grey trousers and a pair of white shoes. Over the years, numerous age progression images have been created by the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children to depict how Sean would look at various stages in his life, with the latest rendering being released in 2018. If he is alive today, Sean Betts would be 47 years old. Those who have any information regarding the whereabouts of Patrick Sean Betts or have any information regarding his disappearance, no matter how big or small, are urged to contact Upland Police Department on 909 946 7624. Forced into visiting his father in a court-ordered visit November 18th rolled around, Elaine reluctantly put Dylan on a plane, having no idea that her son planned on confronting his father the next time that he saw him. She knew that Dylan didn't want to go. They had spoken about it, and Dylan had texted both friends and relatives to say that he didn't want to see his father, but Elaine had a pretty serious threat looming over her head. Her lawyer had advised her that if she tried to deny Mark his visitation rights, especially before the custody battle had been settled, then she faced the serious possibility of prosecution. Backed into a corner, Elaine said goodbye to her son, but Dylan was resourceful. He had already worked out a deal with one of his friends in La Plata, and they'd agreed to let him stay the night at their home. When Mark picked up Dylan at the airport, they were caught on camera. The footage showed almost no interaction between the two of them, and the same could be said for when they were caught on camera later in the day at Walmart in Durango. But at some point, Dylan told Mark that he was going to spend the night at a friend's place, and Mark told him that he could not go. It was possibly this argument that tipped him over the edge, and had Dylan finally decided to confront his father, but the exact events of that night are difficult to pin down. What we do know is that Dylan reached out to the friend he was supposed to be staying with and told him that he would be coming around in the morning instead. He was planning to be there at 6:30, but by 6:45 Dylan still hadn't shown up. His friend, already concerned, texted Dylan, but he didn't get an answer. According to Mark, he'd left Dylan at home in the morning of the 19th to run some errands, but by the time he had come back, Dylan was gone. Mark said there was a bowl of cereal on the counter and Nickelodeon was on in the living room, but Dylan had just appeared to have vanished. Mark said that he was worried that a stranger had taken him, or maybe even that Dylan had run away and been attacked by the wildlife in the mountains that surrounded Mark's home, and he reported him as missing to the police. The police took this disappearance seriously. They and the community began a massive search of the mountains and woods around the home, and they informed Elaine that Dylan was missing. Elaine immediately set out on a 6-hour drive to La Plata, desperate to do whatever she could to help in the search for her son. But she did find a moment along the way to send a message. During the drive, she texted Mark saying, "He wouldn't just leave, he would have called me. I am so suspect of you right now." Elaine made it to La Plata, immediately joining in the search, but at Mark's house, a totally different story was playing out. At a time when the police and the community were out in the dark, torches in hand, and combing the wilderness for his son, Mark was at home, and by 2300 hours that evening, he was in bed and the lights were off. Things only continued to look worse for Mark in the following months when he took to the media. By then, another of his ex-wives had come forward to talk about her experiences dealing with Mark during a custody battle, and what she said would only raise more concerns about Dylan. She said that during a previous discussion she had had with Mark, he told her that if she had ever needed to get rid of a body, then he'd leave it in the mountains. This was quickly followed by a threat where Mark warned her that he would, quote, "kill the kids before he let her have them." In an effort to fend off accusations from Elaine, Corey, and the other people from his past, Mark made what is now a notorious appearance on the Dr. Phil show. During the show, both Elaine and Mark continued to throw accusations at each other, and everything ended when Mark refused to take a lie detector test. Still on the case, law enforcement were able to get several warrants to search Mark's home, and that only made Dylan's case look more grim. They found traces of his blood in Mark's living room, and then they searched the home with cadaver dogs.
Get your first job. Realize you have to pay taxes, but never learned how. Let Intuit do your taxes for you and get you your maximum refund.
Hi.
Hi.
Enjoy adulting. Intuit, your way to money.
Dogs indicated that there had been a corpse in the living room and in the bed of Mark's truck. They also detected traces of a corpse in the washing machine and on the clothes that Mark had reported to himself as wearing on the night of November 18th, 2012. biggest break it had in the case, but that all changed approximately 7 months after Dylan had gone missing. On the 27th of June 2013, about 8 miles or around 13 kilometres from Mark's house, the partial remains of a boy were found about 100 yards off of an ATV trail. They were quickly identified as belonging to Dylan, and Dylan's case officially turned into a homicide investigation. As if the proximity to Mark's home wasn't enough to cast more suspicion on him, Mark also drove an ATV, but there was more. A witness recalled seeing Mark driving in the area of the mountains in April of 2013, right before he left town, and refused to come back when some of Dylan's remains were found in June that year. Even though the discovery of Dylan's remains changed the shape of the investigation, they didn't provide the investigators with a cause of death. Dylan's Mark's theory that Dylan had run away or maybe even had been attacked by wildlife while out on a walk. That was until November 2015, when a pair of hikers found a skull about 2 miles along the road. Another test quickly identified it as having belonged to Dylan, and the investigators finally had what they needed to prove that Dylan had been murdered. His skull showed several knife wounds, particularly around his left eye, that looked like they had been inflicted at, or at least near, the time of death. Testimony from wildlife experts then proved that there were no animals in the area that would have carried his skull that far away from the rest of his remains. This meant that someone had purposefully left his skull there and made sure that it was far away from the rest of his body. Many people believed that it was Mark who had killed him. On July the 17th, 2017, almost 5 years after Dylan had gone missing, Mark was arrested for second-degree murder and child abuse, and that was only the beginning of another long and arduous court battle. When the prosecution were finally able to take him to court, they faced another set of delays when the pandemic knocked back his trial date another 3 times. Finally, in 2021, Mark had his day in court. where the prosecution argued that Dylan confronted Mark with pictures of himself, causing Mark to fly into a fit of rage and kill his son. They used the evidence of Mark's strange behaviour and reluctance to join in the searches for his missing son as proof that he already knew that his son was deceased, but they had to base a lot of their case on circumstantial evidence. The defence argued that things had been difficult between them, but that was probably why Dylan had taken off while Mark had been out of the house and he'd been caught up in some terrible accident. They stuck to their theory that Dylan had been attacked by wildlife and that Mark was innocent, but after 5 weeks of hearing testimony, the jury disagreed. They came back with an unanimous verdict saying that Mark was guilty of both charges of second-degree murder and child abuse. It was then all up to Judge Jeffrey Wilson to figure out Mark's sentence, where Mark could face anything from 12 to 48 years in prison, and the judge came down on him hard. I have trouble remembering a convicted criminal defendant that has shown such an utter lack of remorse for his criminal behaviour, he said, right before he sentenced Mark to 48 years. Mark did not speak at his sentencing, but he did write a statement which the judge then read. He said, "Innocent of all charges, miscarriage of justice, fake conviction, sham trial. I take this circumstance very seriously and want to make clear that I too have lost a child I love more than life itself. I will fight for true justice, not for myself but for Dylan. I have always shown remorse for the things that I am guilty of. Stand against fake justice." rise and availability of the internet, the world is at a turning point, and so is the Bednar family. They had 4 children, all of them either about to become or already one of the few teenagers left who would have a childhood that didn't revolve entirely around social media and online gaming. But even then, it still played a prominent role in their lives. Breck Bednar, the eldest son, was a well-rounded 14-year-old. Growing up in an affluent family based in Surrey, England, Breck was a member of the Air Training Corps, went to church on Sundays and was good with technology. When he wasn't outdoors, Breck would be learning something new on his laptop or playing video games like Battlefield and Call of Duty. It was online that Breck met another computer fanatic. His name was Lewis Davies, and he was an 18-year-old computer engineer from Essex who was some sort of a big shot in the online gaming community. Breck and Lewis had a lot in common. They both liked and played the same games, and they were both interested in computers and how they worked. But that was almost where the similarities between the two of them ended. Breck was the son of an American millionaire who followed a job opportunity in the oil industry to England a few years before Breck was born. He was part of a very tight-knit family, popular and did well at school. Lewis, on the other hand, had practically nothing. His parents divorced when he was very young, and that left him to live with his mother before she remarried and relocated overseas when Lewis was still a toddler. Instead of going to live with his father right away, Lewis was first put into care for some time before he eventually moved in with his father and then his grandparents later on. He didn't get along well with others at school and had a hard time fitting in. He also potentially had Asperger's, which went undiagnosed and untreated until things were too late. But when Breck met Lewis online around the beginning of 2014, things hadn't gone too far just yet. The two of them began spending more time talking online, and that's when Breck's mother, Lauren LaFave, noticed a shift in Breck's behaviour. Breck reportedly became more reclusive and cut himself off from the rest of his family. He stopped going to church. He only wanted to spend time either talking to or spending time with Lewis online, and resented when he would have to do anything else. Lauren herself placed the blame for Breck's change in behaviour on his new friendship with Lewis, so she tried to cut the head off the snake. She later admitted that she had a limited understanding of technology at the time, but she managed to block Lewis's profile online. She also tried to limit the amount of time that Breck could spend on his laptop and what websites his laptop had access to. But especially when it comes to teenagers, when there's a will, there's a way. Breck and Lewis continued to speak with each other, and Breck's parents grew more and more anxious over the path Breck seemed to be going down. Finally, they called the police and told them that they were concerned that Breck was being groomed by Lewis, especially when they found out that Lewis was telling Breck things that were clearly not true. Despite being a British citizen and having never even stepped foot on American soil, Lewis told Breck that he actually worked for the US government. When that story was in the bag, Danes then changed his tune and told Bednar that he made big money and could even get Breck a job where he too could earn lots of money. Looking back on it, or even looking at it from the outside world, it's easy to spot the lie here, but Breck, unfortunately, believed every word. Feeling out of luck and out of options, Breck's parents asked the police for help. The police in turn made a record of the complaints, but didn't look into the matter any further. If they had, they would have found
With EarnIn, you can access your pay the same
crucial piece of information that could have potentially turned the tides. Dames was only 18 at the time, but he already had some serious allegations filed against him. 3 years before Lewis and Breck first met online, Lewis was actually arrested. Only about 15 years old himself at this time, Lewis was held under suspicion of assaulting and raping another 15-year-old victim. Investigators at the time decided not to pursue the case, which meant that Lewis didn't face any charges or even go to court for his alleged crimes, but his arrest still would have been visible on his record. This meant that when Breck's parents called to express concerns over Lewis and his potential interest in their son, the police could have validated those concerns and potentially even stepped in to caution Lewis. But as it was, no action was taken to come between the two of them, and the Bednars were left to deal with the problems themselves. In February of 2014, Breck told them that he was going to sleep over at a friend's house that night. The friend lives nearby, and the Bednars felt comfortable enough letting Breck go, so off he went. But as it often goes with teenagers, Breck hadn't exactly been entirely truthful with his parents. Breck was actually heading to Essex, about an hour and a half away from his hometown in Surrey, and from where he'd told his parents that he would be that night. But the lie, unfortunately, was deeper. That was because Breck wasn't going over to a friend's house. He was going to spend the night in Lewis's apartment. Breck and Lewis had never actually met in person before, but Breck must have felt confident enough in their friendship to go and spend the night with